Have you checked the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Bienvenidos, Fright fans, and welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Jaime and Fuego, and I'm stoked to be catching up once again with a longtime buddy of ours. I've interviewed you a few times at this particular point, man, but
we're old buddies.
yeah, exactly. Heavy Metal Television, and then later on here on the Horror Show. So welcome to the creative space of none other than Jay Fotos, who has worked on more things than I even often remember, man. I mean, prolific is an understatement.
I've been
Stoked to
around.
be here with you, man.
I've been around. Thank you.
Heck yeah. So there's probably going to be a little bit of retread in some of the questions here, but I mean, you obviously like spooky shizzle, and I mean, what was like some of the first memories of horror that you can like pinpoint that just struck your mind and made you know you want to?
All
work
right,
in
the
this
first
creative
I
space?
know it right off the bat. The first movie that I couldn't like go to sleep to, you know, that night or whatever, was Stephen King's
my dude.
Salem's Lot.
Wow,
Now when it
okay.
came on, that it was a miniseries on TV, right?
yes.
Back in was
Yeah.
78.
78, 79, because I just
79.
reviewed that earlier last year for the channel, actually.
And I remember because one of my neighbors was babysitting me, and we watched it. Because the first part or the second part, and that part when the kid's like scratching on the window or whatever,
Beckoning
I
you brought
shit
it.
my pants. I couldn't sleep for like days after that because I was like so scared that the kid's gonna float up to my bedroom window, like, you know, whatever. That's the first movie that really scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Nice.
That's the first.
There you go. Now, so how did like your taste evolve over time then? I mean, you've given us a little tour of your space here, and we're going to see more of it. But I mean, was it like Godzilla stuff? Was it?
Oh yeah, well,
more
growing
like-
up, Godzilla. I think when more in the '80s, when like practical effects and more monster stuff kind of came into play, is when I started getting more into monsters kind of thing, because they're like, oh, that's real. That's, you know, like nowadays everything's like CG, but back then when they were actually making them in movies, and you're like, oh, somebody made that. That's, you know, that's a real item. So that always caught my attention, you know. And then just growing up with, you know, certain types of art like Frank Frazetta and Bernie Wrightson and that kind of stuff. So
Wrightson, man.
that
Yeah.
always fueled my fire too. So.
Nice. So then, when did you start? I mean, were you drawing at an early age?
Oh,
then,
yeah,
at
yeah.
that particular point, I would imagine.
In the 70s, my dad, I was never really a comic book guy. My dad would buy Heavy Metal, you know, magazine back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't allow me to see him because there was a lot of nudity in it. So I always used to have to sneak and see him and whatnot. But I was always intrigued by the artwork in that because they were like fully painted and had all the, you know, Frazetta was in there too a little bit.
Extremely detailed.
Yeah. And my father, I think, had a couple Frazetta art books, and I remember those being a huge influence. And then at one point, somebody bought me a Bernie Wrightson coloring book, and that was a huge influence on me too.
Nice.
So when that was in the 70s too, because I still have it, actually. That Bernie signed it for me too. So
that's awesome.
it's a
Bernie
big
did-
oversized coloring book, Monsters.
Yeah. Oh
So-
man, Bernie did some dope stuff with Stephen King over the
Oh,
years.
yeah,
Illustrated
yeah.
the Fifth Dark Tower books, like
Yeah,
the Werewolf.
Yeah, he
man.
did
I
a
mean,
cover. He did a Lock and Key cover
Oh,
that him and I did, and he also did
Rest
a.
peacefully. He's not with us anymore.
Yeah, I know he
unfortunately.
died,
Yeah.
and he did a '68 cover for us too, which was really cool. So I had an opportunity to work with him and also Frazetta. So both of my childhood major influences I was able to work with. So it's kind of cool.
What was the first book you worked on then? Like professionally,
Oh,
I guess you could say.
Curse of the Spawn.
Okay. That
98.
Another desert dweller, man. Mr. McFarlane.
Yeah. That's how I got my start, pretty much. Because when I moved out to Arizona from New York,
That's where you're from originally, right?
New York.
Nice.
When I moved out to Arizona, I had a couple friends that were going to comic book Wednesdays. You know, everybody goes to a comic book store on Wednesdays.
What spurred the move anyway? Just
A
like
check.
Oh, okay. Well, it's often
She's
how it
going-
happens, man.
She was going to ASU, so and then I had a
Yeah.
bunch of other friends from high school that were out here. So I kind of made my rounds. I lived in Lake Tahoe, then I was going to go down to LA, and then came out here, and I really liked it here. I ended up staying here. So
And so was that like around the time that Image was starting to pop off and the scene was starting, or
well,
was it
Image
already
started
pretty
in like
established?
early '90s, yeah, and then
'cause it was Jim and Todd.
Yeah. I came in like late '90s, and I got reintroduced because my friends I was working at an art store in Scottsdale, Binders.
Okay.
You remember
I
that
do
art
indeed.
store? All right. I used to work there, and then these guys used to come in. They worked at a sign shop, and they were just buying art supplies and stuff. And I got into talking with them and blah blah blah, and then got friends with them, and then we ended up going to a comic book shop, and then they introduced me to, ironically enough, Spawn, and I'm like, wow, comics have changed since I was, into them.
Much more adult, more along the lines of the heavy metal
Well, just
stuff.
yeah,
probably, that you were
way
reading.
more detail, way more dynamic. Rather than when I was a kid, like I remember Kiss comics, and they were just kind of like stagnant kind of panels that never really that much interested in it. But
Well, and it
when
was
I saw
transitioning to more adult storytelling. In
yes,
a lot
and
of ways
then
too.
but then when I saw this new Spawn, I'm like, wow, okay, comics have changed. So I started getting back into it, and then ironically enough, ended up working with the guy. So.
Interesting, the ebb and flow of how that all goes.
Yeah, right. So.
Nice. So then, Lock and Key is what we're here to at least talk about to a
Yes.
degree. However, your awesomeness behind this, we actually reviewed just about a year or so ago, Rising
Yes.
Rebels, and it was
And
like,
Rosie.
dude, it had some meta aspects. It was throwback '80s
Yeah.
monster craziness, but it also had like some Civil War leanings. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on.
Well,
in
going
that
back,
book, man.
because we were talking about early or 70s, whatever, that name, Rising Rebels, has been in my head since the late 70s.
So it's been gestating a long time.
So there's a story behind it because in my neighborhood, there were some friends or this family that lived in our neighborhood, and they had like this one family, this one kid was in I don't know if they were like a biker band or a biker crew or whatever, but they were called the Rising Rebels. And that name always stuck into my head. And then they actually, which is kind of ironic too, is that they had these paintings like Frazetta style on their patches, on their backs of like a guy on a horse like ripping up out of the ground, with the Confederate flag or whatever. So that name always stuck into my head. So for years and years and years, I've always had that in my head. And I'm like, oh, this would be such a cool concept idea or whatever. Eventually I'll get around to it.
Yeah, the alliteration's dope. I mean, come on now.
So probably in the past, after we ended up wrapping up 68 series, I had somewhat of a lull, and I'm like, okay, let me start developing the Rising Rebels stuff. And then I was telling these guys earlier about how I built this thing first before I even actually started writing. And then as I'm building this thing behind me, Colonel Knox and Rosie here, I'm developing the story in my head. That's kind of how I work. I kind of like do all because as an artist, I want to do what looks cool, what would look cool to draw, whatever. So I'm developing these characters and whatever in my head first, and then kind of flush out the other stuff in the end.
Well, there's almost like a mindlessness to this sort of creativity, and then it helps other stuff gestate
Yes.
and conceptualize
Yes.
in your head
Yes.
over the course of putting this together.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah. Because I probably spent about a year in development just figuring it out and noodling on this thing, and So.
Oh, it's an awesome book, man, and you are working on a second portion, right?
Well,
kind of.
we're gonna be doing a Kickstarter in the next month or so, and as an add-on for the collected edition, we're putting in a bonus story called Knox's Revenge, which leaves you to the next morning, like when the story ends in the original. It's basically the next morning of. So we're bringing you back to because the story starts off in post-Civil War, then jumps to 1983, where most of the bulk of the story is in 1983. Which is surrounded by another story, which is current time in 2017.
Yeah, story within the story within the story,
Yes,
based on true events, kind of thing within the continuity, which
it's
I
kind of
thought
like a
was
creep
really
show meets the fog meets the thing. Kind of, I always try to explain it.
And you gave a little nod to Carpenter in the
Oh
book.
yeah. No, there's throughout the whole story, and I ain't trying to hide nothing, because every time I do the editor's letters, I'm like, I'm explaining like, here's Carpenter, is why we did this because we love the thing and whatever.
Yeah.
So I take no apologies on swiping all those ideas because it was kind of a cool fun mash.
Yeah, and we take our influences and wear them on our sleeves a lot of the time. And speaking of alliteration, man, the artwork is gruesomely, grotesquely gross, and I love the hell out of it, man.
I made it a point. I'm like, we got to make it like cool, and I like organic, gooky stuff.
Same.
Obviously. So we made it, laid it on thick for the series. So it was fun. It was really good. A lot of fun.
Hell yeah. So Lock and Key, it's finally a thing. And it's funny because of the fact that there were two prior attempts that failed. We had something on Fox, we had something on Hulu, and then basically Netflix kind of swooped in and was like,
Yeah.
no, we see the potential here. We're going to finally make this happen. And now the property's seeing a resurgence. You guys are doing, you did a couple one-shots, right?
Yeah.
There was something at SDCC a year or so ago. Was that the Dog Days, I want to say? Or was that a different one?
No, it was Nailed It.
Okay.
Nailed It was like a 10-page story that we did. Not to give it away, but it was when they told me about the premise of, I don't want to give it away, but at the end of the story, like, they kind of ended it, with Locke and Key, and then how they redid it was kind of neat. And I really like how you're going to have to check it out, but how they kind of rebooted everything, which is kind of neat. And then we did that for a San Diego exclusive, and then we did like another little 10-page story, and we bundled that, and then we put out Dog Days.
Okay, that's the one I'm thinking of, because
Yeah.
I'm envisioning the cover
Because we
of the dog
include,
in the little
because we
lake or
included
whatever,
the Nailed It and Dog Days to make like a nice big full issue.
Okay.
And then we're, with the series coming out and everything like that, I know that we're going to be starting a new series, I think in March or April, because Joe's schedule's really busy, and I think he's going to get back onto it in March, I was told. And then I think it's going to be Lock and Key World War Keys, which is going to be a series, like another bulky
volume or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I'm really excited about.
Now, so how did you get hooked up with working with Joe and Gabe? Was it because of your resume already beforehand?
Well, I've been working.
or-
Yeah. Well, I started working. I was working with Todd, and then I was working with Todd in the office. I was clearly solely working with Todd, and then I started working freelance for Todd on Sam and Twitch and a couple other things. And then at that time, I was kind of free to open up and work with anybody. I ended up working with Chaos Comics for a little while before they closed their doors. Then I started working with IDW Publishing, and my first gig at IDW was Dawn of the
was it Land of the Dead?
Land of the Dead.
There you go. Okay.
Land of the Dead. Sorry,
Yeah.
it's been a long time, folks. This is back in like 2006.
Yeah, and I was
Right?
going to say, that dude still makes the rounds on all of the different conventions. We see him at Mad Monster like just about every year. He's there,
Yeah.
So
So that was my first gig at IDW, and that was working with Gabe Rodriguez with Lock and Key. Then from there, we ended up doing Clive Barker's Great and Secret Show. That was a huge series. It was like 12 issues, and we've probably put it out like 4 different volumes and 4 different sizes and collections and whatever. And that was a massive 12 issues, big project. And then along the way, I've been doing Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Godzilla, Winer Earp, pretty much a ton of IDW properties. They've been keeping my lights on. Thank you, IDW.
there you go.
My lights are on because of you.
So is that like your main affiliate currently, or are you
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, they keep me busy. And then what they're really good at is like, hey, I do my own thing, and then like any starving artist or whatever, you kind of try to do your own thing and make a couple bucks at it along the way, but it's not enough to pay the bills.
you're speaking my language here, man.
Yes, like anybody in a band or anybody like that. But so, like anybody who has like a day gig, luckily my day gig is making comic books. So, they're really good with they keep me busy. And then anytime I'm slowing down, I'm like, hey, I'm available. And they're like, cool, here, do this. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm lucky. They keep me busy. So.
Well, so with all of these different properties you've worked on, man, is there one, as far as a certain IP, certain character, certain monster, whatever, that you have not got to professionally work on, that you're just like, damn, if only someday I'm gonna tackle that?
Man, I've been given, again, like I'm lucky enough I worked with Frazetta, lucky enough I worked with Bernie Wrightson, lucky enough I've worked on like Godzilla, like a lot of all these monster stuff, 30 Days a Night and all this stuff. A lot of people ask me to go because I'm not a superhero guy, and everybody goes, oh, well, why don't you do Batman or Spider-Man and Superman? I'm like, nah, I'm not really in it. I'm like, well, if you could do any of them, what would you do? And Batman. I mean, so with that saying, I'm working on Batman, but in a different way. I'm working on the board game. So I'm kind of dipping my toe in a little bit, and then having fun working on the Batman animated series board game with IDW Games. So that's been fun,
Excellent. So should we take a tour of the rest of the place?
Yeah.
Or,
Come on in, we'll go. This is where I make my mess, kind of, and then we'll go into where I actually work.
And we're back!
Indeed, back at y'all, and Jay has been kind enough to give us just a little tour of his creative space, so to speak, and
It's a little messy, but
yeah, it gives just a full scope of the extent of everything this guy has worked on, man. So I mean, where do we even start? I mean,
Well,
that's the thing.
Lock and Key is a good bridge,
It
probably.
is
Yeah.
indeed.
So I got
The various versions.
Yeah, I just got a couple of the hardcover, soft covers, and some of the collected editions here. Some puzzles I worked on, and some of the other Lock and Key stuff. Here's like a Wine and Herb cast signed thing that I worked on.
Love the Eastman bit
Yes,
with the
yeah.
68. up
Kevin
there,
and I
man.
did a show together, and then I was doing sketch covers. And I'm like, oh, let me do a zombie turtle, and Kevin signed it for me. He's super cool.
Have you ever made that as a print available?
No,
I would
no.
so want that, man.
Nah, I'm not that type of guy. That I know a lot of guys like do. I've done it before. Everybody does it, like the Baby Yoda and all that. Everybody kind of makes prints and all that. I kind of steer away from that, and I kind of just like do my own thing, I guess you want to say. But I'm guilty of doing it myself. But
I'm guilty of having a lot of the stuff you've worked on as prints hanging in my home, like the 68 Batman and Joker. And,
so I am guilty of it.
Hendrix and,
I try not
that was
to
how we
do it
first
as
got
much.
acquainted.
But,
Yeah,
and then there's just some more zombie stuff. This is Tank of Tom. This is like a head sculpt that I did. Some other games I worked on. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Munchkins.
Now, so as far as effort goes, man, like when working on one of these games, I mean, is
they're
that
massive.
significantly more? I mean, just work time compared
Yeah,
to a book. I would
they're
imagine,
they're
right?
massive, and I've worked on a bunch of games so far, but I still don't have a grasp on the full production of how these things are put together. Because I just got done working on a Batman animated board game, box game, like one of these big games here, and I've been working on it 5-6 months now, and I'm just one of the guys, and there's an army of people that put these things together, and I'm still learning all the mechanics of how these are put together.
Dude, when the manual's like this fat,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out how to even play the damn thing.
I can't even play it. I don't even know. So it's that's another thing I got to learn is really get into working how these games work and everything like that. So because I'm doing more and more and more of it, and I like it. So I want to learn more about them. So
How about the puzzle aspect? I know you said you'd like to work.
yeah, I
with
did
more
a
of those,
couple.
but Tales from the Crypt is
The
rad
Tales from the
status,
Crypt
man.
one that I tried to put this one together. My cat's pooped on it, so I bought one of those cool pads that stick down that I can roll it up. So
Okay.
then my wife and I will have to go back and try to put another one together. And then we just
Sweet.
did you see your gumbo Jimbo here, and then I did a couple puzzles. Those are fun too. And then just keep going. I'm gonna be doing an art show down at the Phoenix College, so I'm putting together some original art to display down there. You can kind of see there's some from Moon Maid, Death Dealer, 30 Days a Night, and here's like some art from Rising Rebels too.
Nice, and as I was saying, it's just cool to see how the pieces come to you initially, and then that added like pizzazz and pop that comes with the coloration aspect. I mean, it's significant, man. It truly is.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you love some Creature from the Black Lagoon. Is that
Yes,
keeping
I'm
some
old
of the
school.
collectability there?
Yeah, I'm old school Creature from the Black. Like I kind of been weeding down my collection because I get a little bit out of hand. If you panned over and you saw my Godzilla
Yeah, I
collection
got
over
the
here.
Godzilla stuff too.
So it starts to get out of hand, right? So
my
I'm
guitar
kinda
player
weed-
would be proud.
Yeah, but I'm kind of weeding it down. I'm like, okay, I'm a Godzilla guy. I like Creature from the Black Lagoon. I got some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff, and I kind of got little knick-knacky stuff here and there. This is kind of narrow it down a little bit. You know what I mean? So, but
Significant, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
it's fun though.
Where did the Godzilla love start?
Oh, when I was a kid, because you got this. I had this when I was a kid. My grandmother bought me not this one, but I remember she bought this for me at like a Woolworths. How do you say it? Is that it?
Close enough.
Woolworth. Yeah. One of those as a kid, and then I've always been I'm an old school Godzilla guy. I don't like anything past probably 1972.
Okay.
Even though I do have all the newer stuff, but like this is probably my favorite one is 64. Then this is I think a 72, and that's a 62. The Godzilla versus King Kong.
So then obviously I have to ask your thoughts on King of the Monsters, the Wingard film, and the previous Garth one and stuff. Not into it?
No, I mean they're okay, and I think they did their job what they were trying to do, but again,
Better or worse than the Dean Devlin and the one in the 90s that had Matthew Broderick
yeah. I think anything
Hank
better than that.
Azaria
Yeah.
taking place in New York and
I
everything.
think I think I love Shin Godzilla. That I really like.
That was the more recent one. You were into that
Yeah,
one, if I remember correctly.
this one right here. So that one. The zombie looking Godzilla, right? I think the movie was drawn out, right? It was
Too slow for my taste.
a little slow.
Personally, yeah.
You know, but I got what they were trying to do, which was, you know, it's kind of hard to explain what I'm thinking about, but I got what they were trying to do. It was a little extended. I like, there was a few things that they kind of left it open, like he's in the middle of the city frozen, so obviously they got to have he comes back to life at some point, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's just the beginning stages of how he becomes, you know, like what we see in 1954. You know, so it's just this hard shell crusted kind of whatever. Then he's mutating more, and then eventually he'll get into more of that. I'm guessing, you know, what we know of how he is. You know, with I want to say the 54 and the 58, which are kind of the originals in the sense, you know. Then it kind of started getting goofy after 1962.
How about some of the animated stuff they did recently on like Netflix and whatnot?
I watched that too. I didn't like it. No,
Yeah.
I didn't like it at all. I think with anime, and a lot of my students are way into anime.
That's what I was going to ask. What are your thoughts on that compared
I want to say
with
about
just having a
80% of my
physical-
students are all anime, and then I'm slowly trying to wrap my head around, because there are adult-oriented anime horror stuff.
Lots of it, in fact.
But the stuff that I haven't seen yet, and they keep on telling me, you should watch this, and this.
Parasite is one, because it's very much
Yes,
like the thing.
somebody brought that one up in my class.
I'm into Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah,
and stuff
I've actually
like
seen that
Yeah.
one. I've actually seen that. And, but it just got too... I won't say... Goofy is a bad word in a way, but I'm not saying goofy. I'm just saying it was maybe too kiddie in a way when it came to the anime for Godzilla.
No, okay.
Did you watch it?
I did not actually.
Oh, okay.
I heard negative reviews.
Have you seen it?
I
people said
did.
that
Well, because
it was
they tried, because it's the biggest Godzilla ever.
Yeah.
And they tried to make him move how that size of a being would move, but it's so slow that there's no drama at all. There's no fighting at all. It's just, it moves so slow and it has a destructive beam, but there's no like, it's not what we come to Godzilla for.
I like the concept of that Godzilla, right? But the story they built around it and
It's
the
so
dialogue
boring. So boring.
that they have between the characters, it just killed it for me, because it was way too goofy kiddie, kind of like they're like, yeah, you know, like
It's
talking-
over dramatized,
Yes,
Japanese style
Yeah,
kind of thing.
and then
yeah.
that's what kind of turned
is
me
like
off.
a Gatsuki or Godsuki or
Not that goofy.
Yeah.
No.
Not that good. It's funny. I was watching that the other day, and I'm like watching it. I'm like, and I still get a little giddy about it. I'm like, this is so stupid, but I love it for some reason.
There was
you know?
this girl I used to date who grew up in South Korea. She was a military brat, and
Yeah.
she was all about that. So
Yeah. No, I watch that stuff, and I'm just like, because as a kid growing up, I was, you know, you loved it, but then even now, I'm like, this is so goofy and kiddie, but I still love it anyway.
So then, do you have like a preferred medium of like artistic expression that you like to go to, as far as like, you know, comic books, as far as, you know, film, as far as, I mean, do you just like it all, or do you have like a personal?
I like it all. I mean, I like getting my hands dirty, and being on a computer, you can't do that. I'm like 99.9 on a computer, so.
And that's where all your coloring is done.
Yeah,
so,
that
yeah.
and just everything, concept painting and all that kind of stuff. But so when I have opportunities to do this kind of stuff, I
Yeah.
jump all over it, because
Nice.
then I have fun. I'm walking out of there and I got crap all over
Yeah,
me.
something
foam.
physical and tangible that you're working on.
Yes, I like that. So
Has
and
the
I've got
digital
shit under my
aspect?
nails.
I mean, has the digital aspect kind of like taken some of the life out of the creativity? You think a little?
No,
bit?
because
Not
it's so
necessarily?
easy now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Photoshop for me, I use Photoshop. So it's a tool, and then once you learn how to use this tool, you manipulate it to do what you want it to do. So it's now I've been working on it for 20 years now. I can immediately, if I have an idea, I can bang it out and immediately get
Far
it out
quicker, yeah.
way quicker. You know. And then manipulate it, or like leave it and walk away from it and come back to it and change it, and you're able to do that, you know. Especially like when I'm doing concept stuff, like I'll get my initial idea down, and then I'll put it away, and I'll work on something else, and I'll come back to it. I'm like, that looks like shit. I want to change, blah blah blah, you know, whatever. And I can change it.
And
like
the ease
that.
of alteration,
Yeah. So it's.
But there's still like, obviously, like you were saying, like a crave as an artist and a creator to work on something more of a physical variety.
Yeah,
right?
Because I started off when I started in comic books, I was an inker, so I was using pen and ink.
No,
And then
tracer
you-
like that.
Yeah.
How to make the chasing game reference.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just kidding.
But,
Your mother's a tracer.
But you're getting dirty and you're getting ink on you and you're
Yeah.
spilling stuff and you're flicking and you're painting your nails and like I love that. I miss that stuff. So every once in a while, when I'm at conventions or whatever, you're doing all your sketch stuff. Like sometimes I'll have way more fun just doodling on stuff that way. Rather than something I'm working on.
All too often when I'm at con and I walk up and there's no one at that particular artist booth, they're just sitting there doodling. They're just like kind of working on something because they still have that inherent desire to just just kind of
And it's an excuse because I'm stepping away from my studio and putting myself in another environment and I'm there with a pencil and a pen.
Yeah.
And and then I'm like, okay, cool, let's do something fun. So because I have my art table here, but it's hard.
Love
for
the
me.
art table, by the way, man. I mean, just like as you even talked about just the transitionary process. You said it was a couch at one point.
Yeah, it was a couch, and then I converted it into my table, and all that stuff.
Well, it's the type of space that has, a lot of character to it. That's for damn sure.
But again, it's like if I try to want to start drawing something here, I'm not as motivated because I'm here all the time. So sometimes I want to step away from it.
Get out of the element.
Yeah, and then do something completely different. You know what I mean? So that helps.
Now, so as far as anything completely different that you're working on right now, is there anything that you can plug? I know you were giving us a little bit of information about a new book that had some. Is that allowed to be talked about, or is it still in the conception process?
Oh, with Gorgon, you're talking about?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we advertised it in the back of issue number 4, Rising Rebels, and it's a concept I've been working on for a couple years now, and there's a lot of artwork that I've built and covers and stuff so if I wanted to start it, I could jump right into it and go, and then we're fleshing out the story more and everything like that. So I know once we get the Rising Rebels trade out of the way, we're going to do the Kickstarter and then go through all the trials and tribulations of that. That's going to be a learning process in itself. And then go, okay, what's next? And then I know I have that in the wings waiting for me. So
nice, yeah. And I was gonna say all the back of issue stuff you did in there with Danny was just so fun and so nostalgic, man. I love the hell out of that.
Danny's awesome.
Oh yeah.
He's the perfect guy for it. I mean, he's like totally 80s nerd, stuff. So
he's also a New York guy too, right?
Yeah. He grew up in Jersey, so.
Nice. Okay. Area.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Now, so you have a day gig of teaching and imparting a lot of your wisdom and stuff. I have to give a shout out to that because I attended Phoenix College myself. I studied audio production there. What's your gig over there as far as classes?
Yeah, I started teaching.
If you're in the Phoenix metro area or whatever.
Yeah, I started teaching at Phoenix College. I think I'm in my 5th or 6th semester, and I teach. I'm there only 1 day a week. It's not like a full-time gig, but I teach comics creation. Publishing and also coloring and lettering. Those are combined in one class. So yeah, I teach one class a week, and it's great. The kids are great, and it's another avenue to get out of the cave of, as I call it.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So it's fun.
Yeah, it's somewhere where my dad taught for decades at one particular point. So yeah, just solid program and stuff of that nature. So
we're building up the curriculum now and the program. So hopefully in the next few years, I think things are going to start getting more and more momentum with we have a comics art degree program there. So
I did not know that. That's badass, man.
We're the only one in the state who's got it. So come on down if you want to get your comics arts degree.
If you're in Arizona, if you're a desert dweller like us and you want to get some of that wisdom, man.
Yeah.
And very, very rad status. So website somewhere where people can kind of keep up on your
the
creativity and all the
go-tos are,
awesomeness.
I got jphotos.com, jphotos studios, Facebook, jphotos studios on Instagram.
Nice. Well, there you have it, everybody. It was awesome to get to catch up with this guy, and you're probably going to be in higher demand as time goes on, and
I hope so.
Keep it up, man.
I hope so, man. Thank
Keep
you.
it up. Always
See you later.
impressive. All right, y'all.